Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another story session. Today, I'm sharing a deeply personal tale, one I never imagined would unfold from something as seemingly innocent as dinner. But as I stand at the threshold of our bedroom, watching my husband hurriedly gather his clothes and toss them into a suitcase, I realize just how wrong I was. His face is calm, yet determined, impossible to read, but the intent in his actions is crystal clear. My chest tightens, breath catching in my throat. I try to speak, to explain, to plead with him, but my words fall flat. Daniel keeps moving, ignoring every word. "Please, just hear me out," I say, taking a cautious step toward him. He doesn't even lift his eyes. Instead, he yanks open the dresser and grabs more clothes, folding nothing, stuffing everything in with robotic precision. "I already listened, Mia," he says, his tone controlled, clipped. But beneath that tightly wrapped exterior, I can sense the seething anger he's trying so hard to contain. "I wasn't doing anything wrong," I whisper, voice trembling. I believed that, truly. Having dinner with my ex felt harmless at the time, just a friendly catch-up. But staring at Daniel now, his stiff posture, the tension in his jaw, and that look in his eyes that's somewhere between crushed and furious, I see how foolishly naive I had been. This entire unraveling started with a message I should have ignored. I was relaxing after a long workday, idly scrolling through my phone, when a notification appeared. A name I hadn't seen in years. Lucas. "Hey, stranger. I'm in town for a bit. Want to meet for dinner?" I paused. Lucas was an ex, yes, but our breakup hadn't been explosive. We didn't crash and burn. We simply drifted apart, realizing we weren't meant to last. Lucas had always been spontaneous and thrilling, a bit wild, but never the kind of man to build a stable life with. That was Daniel, steadfast, honest, reliable. The kind of person who doesn't just make plans, he follows through. So, why did I consider responding? Maybe it was nostalgia. Maybe curiosity. Maybe I wanted to prove to myself that I was completely over it. That seeing Lucas again wouldn't stir anything in me. Sure, dinner sounds good, smiling face with smiling eyes, just catching up, right? I even added a light-hearted emoji, as if that made it more innocent. Just two old friends reminiscing. That's what I told myself. I should have mentioned it to Daniel. I know that now. But I convinced myself it wasn't necessary. That he might overthink it, misread it. That telling him would only create unnecessary drama. I told myself withholding it wasn't lying, just sparing him worry over nothing. I had no idea what that one decision would end up costing me. The restaurant Lucas chose was far too romantic for a casual reunion. Dim lights, flickering candles. It felt more like a date spot than a neutral setting. As soon as I sat down, unease crept into my stomach. But Lucas, ever the charmer, cracked a joke about how ridiculous we used to be, and just like that, I was laughing. The first 30 minutes were innocent enough. We talked about work, mutual friends, places we'd traveled. But then, something shifted. Lucas leaned forward, his voice lowering as his eyes locked with mine. "You look incredible, Mia," he said softly, his gaze lingering far too long. His fingertips brushed my wrist, sending a jolt up my arm. "You know, I still think about us sometimes." That's when reality hit me like a cold wave. I had made a mistake. I opened my mouth to set boundaries, to remind him I was married, happily. But before I could say a word, I felt it. Someone was watching us. I turned my head and froze. Daniel was standing by the entrance. His eyes locked on mine. No shouting. No accusations. Just devastating silence. For a long, agonizing moment, he simply stared. And then, without a word, he turned and walked away. I stood up, so quickly my knee knocked the table, nearly toppling my wine glass. "I have to go," I muttered, barely noticing Lucas's confused expression as I grabbed my purse and rushed out. When I got home, Daniel was already in the bedroom, throwing clothes into a suitcase with a force that made my stomach twist. "Daniel, please," I said, stepping closer. "Let me explain." He didn't even look at me. "Explain what?" His voice was eerily calm, but I could hear the storm raging beneath it. That you met your ex behind my back? That you let him touch you? I swallowed the lump in my throat. I should have told you.
I see that now.
But I wasn't trying to hide anything. I just didn't want to upset you over something harmless. Daniel let out a bitter, joyless laugh. Harmless. He finally turned to face me. His expression was a mix of pain and disbelief. You really think what I saw was nothing? I wanted to argue, to insist it wasn't what he thought. But deep down I knew, if the situation were reversed, if I had walked into a restaurant and seen him laughing with an ex, leaning close, I would have felt the same. It wasn't cheating, I whispered, voice breaking. Please,
I didn't cheat.
No, he said, cold and wounded, but it was a betrayal. That word hit me like a slap. I winced. So that's it? I asked. You're just walking out? He zipped up his suitcase with a final tug and let out a shaky breath. I don't know, Mia. I just know I can't sleep in this house tonight. I stood frozen, helpless, as he grabbed his keys and walked to the door. I wanted to run after him, to beg him to stay, to swear I'd do anything to make this right. But I didn't move, because the truth was, something between us had already broken, and I didn't know if it could ever be repaired.